All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to One Resource Floating, the show where we do stuff about Fab. We talk about Fab. This week, we're continuing down our chain of Arcane Rising with myself, the 86. We have Kayla joining us, and Ben, and then there's some far off mystical power that likes to chime in at random times. Oh, there's a hand.
Family.
Now we have the thing that is trying to. This week, who are we going to talk about? Does anyone know?
The original Ranger Azalea.
The OG Ranger.
OG Ranger.
The one Ranger to rule them all. Actually, that's not true. It's not true at all.
Not in the slightest.
There's one ranger that exists.
So
he exists. That's
yeah. The and we'll go ahead and say this up front. I have this feeling, and maybe I'm going to assume the other two have this feeling as well. Azalea, we're going to be talking about her, and she is outclassed and outshined by the other ranger that we will talk about later, mostly because of the fact that the other ranger can do everything that Azalea can do, except for play two cards that are specializations.
And the way that this other hero does it isn't always like super cut and dry, but either a combination of cards or equipment allow the other ranger that exists to just be Azalea with a better card list and a hero ability that is just better.
Yeah, and they have a larger card pool because they can play elemental things. But so this week we're going to talk about Azalea. I do think that if you are, at the end of the day, if you're looking at Rangers, the other Ranger we'll talk about later may be a better bet. But going into Azalea, what is significant about her and what's really neat is she has a bow. Bows are something that can only be played from... Anyone have a guess?
It's arrows can only be played from Arcane.
I say bows every time. Yeah. Bows or something.
Same difference.
Yeah, you have to have a bow to fire your arrows.
They take two hands to hold. Arrows are fired from said bow.
Ugh. I did that earlier
just
too.
like in real life.
So arrows have to be fired from arsenal, and from a bow, and they get in your arsenal. There are ways to load a bow, pay a resource, put the arrow down there. A lot of different bows have special effects that if you load it, you get to do something else with it. And there are some things that go into that. We'll start off talking about the weapon. I think the best weapon that a lot of people agree is Death Dealer. And that's, let's see, once per turn action, one resource. If you have no cards in your arsenal, you may put an arrow card from your hand face up into your arsenal. If you do, draw a card. Go again. And do you guys look to any other bows?
Honestly, I think it depends on build, because personally, with the way that I helped an Azalea player who is the best Azalea player in the store build his Azalea deck, is that we actually used Redliner, which is from Crucible, because he was running a lot more defense reactions that you could put a card on top, such as Rise Above from Monarch. And he also played Seek Horizon, which is an attack action that, as an additional cost, you can put something on top of your deck.
Also from Monarch.
And those two cards with Redliner are very powerful with Azalea's ability, because you can basically either defend on your off turn and play something to get ready for your Azalea turn, or do an attack action card, put something on top, and then come in with an Azalea play. But, I mean, you can't beat in format drawing cards. It is powerful, but you are essentially pitching a resource to draw a card. Whereas Redliner is free, So instead of pitching a card and drawing a card, you get to keep a card in hand. It balances itself out between the two. It's just kind of more of how you wish to play things. But in my play style of building Azalea, I prefer Redliner.
Redliner is a good bow. Just to say what it does real quick. It's if you have no cards in your arsenal, put an arrow card from your hand face up into your arsenal, and there's no resource with it. Now, there's really not a benefit, but no resource has to be given for it. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's probably an argument for the new bow from Everfest Dreadboard, too, especially if you're against a more controlly opponent who wants to play a lot of defense reactions, because it shuts down defense reactions from hand. And it gives +1 to your arrows, so it turns on bolt and shot. So the bow really depends on how you want to play Azalea. That's going to make a big difference.
Yeah. And Dreadboard does cost 1 resource, so you're not getting the draw card, but the limit of defense reactions is a very good sort of clause instead of drawing a card, preventing someone from defending, which could become even more brutal with Azalea's hero ability.
And that's
At least in Blitz.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's mostly gonna be useful in Blitz.
Yes.
It's not useful in Sealed. If somehow you get yourself a Dreadboard in Sealed, it might be tempting to play with it, but I honestly wouldn't.
No.
If you're gonna be able to play with Redliner, I mean, it's technically not a token weapon, so you probably end up with Death Dealer. But again, I would really not want to use Dreadbore in CC without having a deck list built around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Blitz, you have the extra equipment, so you could have it just to have it.
Yeah. I mean, in Blitz, you could have all 3 bows technically in a sideline and just choose which one you want to play.
Yeah, so that's really
thing.
player preference.
So going in and building the Azalea deck, we'll start there. I think that Rangers are a class that actually needs a lot of reds. If you plan on arrows that have on-hit effects, so bolt and shot has reload if it hits. If it has the +1, it gets go again, and if it hits reload. There's a lot of other good cards with on-hit effects, but just talking about that one specifically, you want to be able to get that off, make it powerful, so that if someone is expending cards, so you can't do that, they're going to have to expend more than one card. Worst case scenario. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
This is one of those moments where I've had a conversation with the best Azalea player at our game store. Attack reactions are not wasted in Azalea. A lot of her attacks come in for 1 and 0, and that opens up 2 very specific attack reactions. Razor Reflex.
Yep.
And Azalea really benefits from, I'm running a lot of reds, I'm forcing a lot of cards out of hand. If I'm not dominating this arrow, now I can then sneak over extra damage and give my arrow go again, which Azalea needs at least 2 arrows to be a good turn.
Yeah.
And the other one, it's one of the few that I actually would say she should run it, is Lunging Press.
Yep.
It's a pitch blue, blocks for 2, but it is a +1 to any attack action. So there's no gating on it, no whatsoever. If you have a dominated effect that you'd really like to hit and they block the equipment, but they exact block, you don't have any resources floating, you got Lunging Press in hand, boop! There's your Remorseless hitting. Like, there is a definite space for attack reactions in Azalea, more so than I think in some of the other heroes that we've covered, other than like maybe Katsu, who you obviously have a few reactions in.
Yeah, or Dorinthia.
Right, which is
It was
a surprise.
90% attack reactions. I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, about deck colors. I would say you would not want blues unless it is card specific. Azalea has one card in particular that is specifically just for her. It's one of her specializations, which is Knock the Death Whistle. And it is a blue color strip. I would say that would probably be the only blue you want unless you did Lunging Press, which only comes in blue. Because those moments of getting damage, and also like a lot of her stuff doesn't cost a lot. A yellow would cover Death Dealer and an arrow easily.
Yeah.
So
one arrow then, and it's from Everfest and it's battering bolt.
Yeah.
Everything is 1 or 0. A lot of them are 1.
a lot of them
You
are
can't
one.
just only run reds.
Actually, almost all of them, the highest for anything is 1, except the one card, which is 2.
Right.
And then the rest are 0.
I'm also gonna say, since I said trap last week, I'm gonna say trap again. I think battering bolt might be a trap.
It's good for prism breaks, and it's good against the Dorinthia matchup.
So, yeah, I guess I could kind of see that a little bit. Yeah, but the problem is that if anybody has an instant in their hand, they're gonna play that instant, and so they don't lose their life. It just
This is true.
Also, with Dorinthia players, there's also just being probably the biggest Dorinthia player we've had. There are also turns where you have no attack reactions, and they're all just actions, which are build-up cards, which Battering Bolt would not have any effect against. I mean, there are hands where you have just attack reactions, but there are also the hands of just no attack reactions.
How do you feel about the Ben that she said something about being
She's the only one that plays Dorinthia CC, so she can have that.
Okay.
Andrew, I will fight you over thinking that I'm not the biggest Dorinthia player in the store.
She's the Dorinthia stan.
You all got into this game because of me. I will take you all out of the game.
Actually, I think that you definitely taught me some things.
I will remove you from the game.
Can you? Anyway, so Kayla's serious about Dorinthia. Anyway, back to Azalea.
Arrows. Whew.
Yeah, battering bolt. I think can be a trap. It's definitely something to sideboard.
It's sideboard at best.
Do not do it in Blitz. Do not do it in Blitz. It's not worth it
in Blitz.
You're gonna play if you think if you play Kano, I'm gonna go for Kano and snipe his instance. Well, guess what? He's gonna play him. Dorinthia could follow that a little bit. If she has defensive reactions, she's gonna definitely play him. And just get that stuff out of your hand. So Battering Bolt's one card that's either it's really good or it's really bad depending on the matchup. I wouldn't keep it in as just let's see how this does.
It costs 2.
So the chances of you realistically getting that off are gonna require
take a lot.
planning and require losing life just to play it.
Yep.
So yeah, it exists for Prism. It can be useful against Dorinthia. It can maybe be useful against people like Reinar. Maybe. But you wouldn't know what kind of Reinar. So,
Reinar's a lot of actions.
He has a lot of build.
So Battering Bolt is the new card.
We already said Prism. I was thinking Prism has a lot of instances, which would hurt her.
There are some other cards that came out in Everfest that I think are a lot better. Just so we don't dwell on Battering Bolt. Rain Razors is something that is amazing. It's an instant, so you can fake someone out and be like, oh, no reactions. Okay, well, I'm just going to take it at 3. I'm like, oh, instant speed coming in with this before it deals damage. And then your bolt and shot gets reload. And then you fire another bolt and shot, and it also has a buff on it.
It's also very good for endless arrow turns, where someone blocks your endless arrow, and they think that you're not going to get it back, and then you Rain Razor it, and endless arrow goes back to your hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and endless arrow is really nice, too, because it goes back to your hand the second it hits, not at the end of the combat chain.
Yeah, if it hits it immediately.
It isn't one.
Yeah. If you gave it go again, guess what? Fired again.
Yeah, and it's 0. Like, there's no reason not to have endless arrows in your deck.
Endless Arrow, I think, is probably one of the best Ranger cards. But in saying that, there's a better Ranger to use it. I'm sorry, Azalea. It hurt. I want to give you love. I think you're cool. I think you're awesome. But with the way things are going for Azalea, it's getting easier and harder for her to keep up. Sucks.
Yeah.
Because I want all heroes to get a little bit of love. But
Yeah, all this-
unfortunately, her and one other hero just do not get any love whatsoever. And we'll talk about that other hero later.
Yeah.
So let's talk about her two specializations, though. The things that made Azalea interesting when she first came out. The first being Knock the Death Whistle.
Yep.
The spiciest tutor in Flesh and Blood.
Yep.
Because not only does it allow you to just hand select your meanest attack arrow for this turn, like to use right now.
Yep.
Not just to like hang on to. Because Knock the Death Whistle allows you to tutor and place it on top of your deck. What is Azalea's ability? For 0. So you can go and get the other specialization. Red in the Ledger.
Red in the Ledger. Which is...
Super attack. Remorseless.
Red in the Ledger is probably one of the coolest names for a card, plus the art for it. It's just a cool card in general. I think they did a really good job with that card, and it fits her so well. I give her more.
Yeah, like if she
more.
had one or two other tricks in her bag of that caliber, it's a whole different scenario feeling.
Because just offhand, Dorinthia's specializations. One of Dorinthia's specializations is a tutor. The other one gets to draw a card.
Yeah, you can. If you look at the first 4 heroes. Katsu's ability, tutors. Bravo's specialization,
Showtime, tutors. Sand Sketch Plan, tutors.
You have to do spicy stuff to get action.
Spicy things.
So, like, Flesh and Blood has always had this strong history of, like, go find the thing you need.
Yep.
But you don't have this reliably, unless you're Katsu. So, Azalea is the only Arcane Rising. No, there's one other Arcane Rising hero.
Spark of Genius.
Yeah, actually, all have it.
Yeah, there's
no, Kano can tutor. Is
Lesson
it
in Lava?
Gaze the Aegis.
Oh, Gaze the Aegis.
Gaze is just opt, isn't it?
Is it opt?
It's opt.
Yeah.
Oh,
Lesson in Lava, if it hits, you get to...
Yeah, Lesson in Lava you can tutor.
We'll talk about that one. And we'll talk about Become the Arc Knight later, too, probably.
They all have tutors. So Azalea, is unchanged from that thread of, hey,
here's a tutor card.
Here's a tutor.
So we were originally saying, wow, this is really good because she has this card, but everyone has this card.
Right.
Everyone has a tutor.
That's the point.
Yeah, he was going to circle back to, she has a tutor and that's great. Everyone else does.
So is it actually that great? It is, but now you've literally just leveled the playing field, and it looks super valuable on the card because you've got go get this card. It's got reload. It's got all the stuff on it. It's like
I gotta put it on top. I get to reload. I get to put Azalea and put it in my arsenal.
It's like, well, yeah, you have to make that card be any good.
Cool, but by playing Knock the Death Whistle, you've just narrated your entire game plan to your opponent.
Unless you have something like Razor Reflex. Again, I will not shut up about the value of Razor Reflex.
I think Razor Reflex is definitely good with that because you need a way to give her arrows go again to be able to fire a second thing.
Forceless with go again +3. Oh god, I'd be terrified. Because I'd be like, I'm gonna block this with one.
That's Remorseless.
Yeah.
A different ranger can play Remorseless.
I know.
Well, and that's another thing too, is a lot of the ranger cards, if we want to go down that path, a lot of these arrows have different on-hit effects. And, I mean, I guess it would be boring if we had just had different arrows that dealt damage, but we're playing all these things and they react differently. So Remorseless is someone that is a card. It deals 6, I think, by default. Or is it 5? 5.
It's 5.
Yeah, because I +1 it when you load it. So it can come in with 5 base, and if it hits, then the opposing player loses 1 life for each action card they play. And if I have this right, I think I'm right, defense reactions cannot be played to Remorseless's Chain Link.
From Arsenal.
Remorseless is put into Arsenal face up.
Yeah.
Yep.
If it was already there,
Face down.
then
from Arsenal.
Unless they skull boned, which we can talk about her equipment later. She has a specific equipment that can turn something face up. That would activate remorse.
It has to be put into your arsenal face up though. So like,
Oh, then no, that wouldn't work.
Or reload. Reload's face down, isn't it?
Yeah,
Reload is face down.
again.
Which has to be off Azalea's ability.
Bows put stuff in
Or
face
lo- or
Azalea's
load the bows.
ability put stuff face up. Her equipment that I'm thinking of flips it if it's face down, which does not count.
The Remorseless card was printed in Crucible. She was the only ranger that existed, so it was intended as a get this with knock.
I mean, she's in the photo.
She is in the art.
It is her. I think also Seek and Destroy might be her.
It's her on
Yeah.
the isn't even.
And that's another good on-hit effect to play too. Seek and Destroy, I'll be honest, that I will run that instead of Command and Conquer.
Well, 2 sets, but it's the 4th set to come out, so that's what I was.
I mean, it's just where it's 0 cost plus 3, and it does kind of interrupt any kind of setup that your opponent might want to do on their turn. So it's a solid card.
But okay, so we've been talking about this, and I kind of want to, I thought about this, and I don't want to lose it before we get past it. We are talking about the perfect case scenario of putting something in your arsenal with Azalea's ability. But the most detrimental thing to Azalea is putting an arrow in your arsenal with Death Dealer, drawing a card, and then you Azalea, and it's an action.
It's not an arrow.
It's not an arrow. If you have no other arrows, your turn is done. And that is the problem with her, is that is too common of a liability that it really hurts her game plan.
So you do have to put cards in to allow you to look at the top of your deck or opt or something that you can check the top of your deck.
Because I feel like we've talked about her in the best case scenario. But you have to think of these heroes too in the worst case scenario of you build up this wonderful nimblism into a Seek and Destroy, into putting an arrow in your arsenal, instead of just firing it for 10 with no dominate, you run the risk of Azaleaing and you get
Another
nimblism, or read the glide path, or anything that costs 0. Take aim.
The other side of this as well, she is the first hero that we've seen that has absolutely no Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle mode. She cannot block 3 cards and then still do damage.
Yeah.
If she commits cards on defense, that is in effect saying, I either have something in Arsenal that I can play for free, or I'm going to accept the fact that I will maybe blind Azalea and get lucky.
Yep.
Somehow. Because they don't have a weapon. Azalea does not have an actual weapon.
Yeah, she can't be like Bravo. She can't swing a hammer. She can't be like Dorinthia and swing a sword.
She can't be like Katsu and keep 1 card in hand and still threaten 2 individual attacks.
She is relying on attack action cards, which are either just generic attack action cards or arrows. And she has no other way to do damage.
In a game where cards are as, if not more important than life, the actual physical number of cards you have and have left in your library, that forces Rangers to spend cards faster than everybody else to just get an attack.
Yep.
They usually have to commit 1 card to the chain link every turn to do any damage. There is no cycle a card on the bottom through pitching and then deal damage all the same, because their weapon doesn't have an attack function. They must use a card to threaten damage.
Yes.
Ninjas, warriors, every other hero we've seen so far, other than we actually haven't talked about Kano yet.
No.
But every other hero thus far has a way to deal damage and not lose a card to the graveyard. Azalea is the first example of that not being the case. So if you have to block with cards, you're then saying, okay, I'm just going to be committing 4 or 5 cards to the graveyard this cycle of turn. Whereas other heroes can be like, I'm going to need this later. Pitch it, throw my weapon at them.
Yep.
So it's also... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
He ended. He's done. He got off the block.
All right. I was gonna say what's also important too. And we talked about that nimblism and other things that can end up in your arsenal. Azalea is actually the one thing that is a benefit to her. Is her ability can once per turn get things out of her arsenal, whereas the other ranger can't do that. So if you find yourself not playing with a high end equipment that allows you to do arsenal things, we'll talk about in a minute. When you get that lunging press that goes into your arsenal, at least you can get that out next turn. The other hero can't do that until they have an attack. So they might have to defend and then buff that attack action card or buff the opponent's attack action card. And that can hurt. I've done that before at the calling in the last year of October with the other ranger because it was sealed and I was like, oh shoot, I don't have New Horizons.
To know, and we might just want to jump into equipment now, because somebody just said New Horizons, and there's this tempting thing to be like, New Horizons, slap it on every ranger. It doesn't work with Azalea.
No.
Because reload fails when there's a card in Arsenal, and all of Azalea's abilities fail when there's cards in Arsenal, so the whole point of New Horizons is wasted on Azalea.
Yeah.
Well,
I will say there's one benefit to playing New Horizons and Azalea, and that is making traps playable. That's about the only reason to run it.
But you don't need to because, again, you have a trap and they don't attack, and you're like, well, that trap's in there. And you're like, cool, free Azalea fodder. Like,
also, if a trap is like, I'm gonna do 2 damage, it's like, oh, cool. You haven't done any damage to me in 3 turns. I'll take the 2.
Go to 36 and you're at 19.
This kind of hurts because I like playing ranger. I don't play Azalea, but I feel personally attacked.
There's another player at our store who is a good Azalea player. And they say that they can block 17 damage in a turn. And my response is, cool, what'd you do on your turn? And they say, I arsenaled and passed.
Hey, they arsenaled.
Wow,
something
yeah,
to
they
do.
arsenaled.
I had a card left over.
But if you block 17 damage, that's great. But
You also then have to look, how many cards can you commit?
Yeah. What's the health at? Oh, you're at 9 and they're at 20? Ugh. Okay, sure. It's working, I guess. You're not dead yet. But that's yet.
Unfortunately, I think so we've gone through this conversation of spending cards, and we talked a little bit before the thing mentioned
The
that
thing.
is it the hand, is that the name of the Adams Family thing with the hand thing?
The hand.
Oh yeah, thing or whatever. Yeah.
Well, that's what
Not
you're-
the thing, which is another.
I was referring to a thing that we talked about, and I just not.
Anyway, that's one of the best things for Starvo to do against. There is the other ranger can kind of counter him, but if he just wears her down, because eventually she's going to run out of cards, then he just has to attack, and that's the best way for Starvo to counter rangers that give him trouble.
Yeah, because if you're playing 2 actions as a ranger, pitching 1 card, loading, azaleaing, you're still wasting 3 cards on a chain, and someone could block with 1.
Or
And
1 in an equipment, and
1 in an
you
equipment.
don't get your own hit triggers.
It's also the thing with Ranger is that, and this ties into talking about equipment, they just need equipment that blocks. Just something that blocks so they don't have to use all these defense reactions. That is their problem, is Warrior can block like 6 damage with just equipment.
Right setup for it.
Yeah. Guardian, God forbid, Guardian can block like 8.
Rangers can't block for crap, and that's one of their big problems.
The biggest problem is that they can't block. They need equipment.
And they can't offset it by forcing cards out of hand like
Yep.
Ninja. We talked about Patsu, where it's like, oh, if you don't block this on hit trigger, it's going to be real bad for you, so you're forcing a card out.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not equivalent to using equipment to block, but again, it's that card differential.
Yeah, it's making up for lost time. And I have taken many remorseless to the face and been like, I'll take 5. And they go, okay, every action on your turn's going to cost one health.
Taking 8.
I'm taking
7 or
at
8.
least 7, 8, maybe 9, but I will dish out 18 damage. And to me, that differential is much bigger than me wasting 2 cards from hand to block the attack and not pushing the 18. Rangers need equipment that blocks.
You know, Remorseless is actually very good against Chain. Because he needs to get those cards out of his banish zone to play them. So he's playing a lot of actions during his turn, and he's racking up damage that way.
It's good. I'm not saying it's awful. It is good. But
Actually, my argument against that chain thing would be Remorseless does 1 damage for every action card they play.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they leave it in their banish zone, they're taking 1 anyway, so they might as well play it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a moot point.
Yeah, that is kind of like a get. Also, Chain can just carry and husk.
Rangers do need some help. Let's talk about what they do have. I don't think New Horizons is a bad swap in. I think it's actually very comparable to the other head equipment that they have, Skullbone Crosswrap, and the fact that if Azalea, her ability whiffs, that card's still face up when it goes in there. So you have another arsenal spot that you can work with.
It really depends on how you want to build her.
With your bow already, it's useless.
I mean, you still can shoot it.
It requires that, like, I'm an arsenal at the end of each turn.
Yeah.
And then begin pretty much every turn by either a non-attack action and then Azalea, or just right into your Azalea, which will often be blind.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you've done something previous turn as well, like Seek Horizon or Rise Above on defense or something like that. So it's just New Horizon, it never feels like I'm getting that same explosiveness out of Skullbone Crosswrap, where I can really just be like, I'm going to do 15 things all in my turn, and it will end up threatening like a 10 damage Remorseless, which feels great. Whereas New Horizons, like, if the stars align and this Tuesday is the 15th Tuesday of the year, I will use this trap to fuel a blind Azalea to knock the death whistle into something else. And it's like, okay,
so, all right. So here's my counter to all this. I think if you are a ranger, you need to arsenal at the end of every turn. Whether you are Azalea or if you're the other ranger.
It's a big part of the game plan.
Yeah, and it's flip that over to get the ability if you're playing as Lexi or if you are playing as Azalea. You want to give things go again. Other than Tri-Shot, which is introduced in Everfest, you're not going to find another way to load the bow. And I think that you can play arrows from Arsenal. You can fire them. You don't have to load the bow. You just have to give them go again so you can load the bow again. And I think that's going to be really key in getting 2 attacks off each turn or each other turn.
I want to talk about one more card before we go to equipment. And we've not talked about it at all in any hero except for maybe Katsu, and that's even bigger than that.
Oh my gosh.
Azalea has some attacks that slap. Yes. Pretty big numbers in the bottom left corner. Even bigger than that would probably be the least expected play from anyone ever. To be like, I just did 3 damage. Even bigger than that. With Azalea, you often do know what's on the top of your deck. So you could get away with running blues of this or yellows of this, whatever you need to filter your pitch into when you're deck building. But getting that draw, which you can then slap into Arsenal, New Horizons fodder, or just the Quicken token for next turn. You know your first arrow next turn has go again. Doesn't matter. It's not like you can waste it on a Kodachi or some useless weapon like a lot of other heroes can. The only time that it's like, aha, my weapon is only for attack actions, it's useful, is Quicken tokens. And even bigger than that is a way to do it now.
And I think even bigger than that, it's been a strong meta call that I've seen at different ProQuests that I've attended, playing online with friends, just everything I've done. I've seen even bigger than it in almost every deck. And so I think that it is
Yeah.
very common right now.
It's
Even
bigger than that. It's
even bigger
great.
than that, it's
It's
amazing.
amazing. Even bigger than that. Fundubiously.
Yep, that's all right. That's going to the world.
So Skullbone Crosswrap is the Arcane Rising piece that came with Azalea.
Mhm.
Does anyone remember the specific wording on that?
It's flip over a card, opt 1.
Yep.
It's got Blade Break 1 or 2.
1.
One.
Oh,
And it's got. Does it have Arcane Barrier?
It does. It has Arcane Barrier.
It has Arcane Barrier.
it's one of the only things that does arcane and physical, but Blade Break.
Trade off.
Yeah, it would kind of be good to sideboard. I would have that.
Oh yeah, no, it's. I mean, definitely keep for Kano matchup no matter what. Whatever your thoughts on New Horizon are, you keep it for the Kano matchup.
Yeah, exactly.
I think, personally, Andrew, I know you love, I used your real name, I'm sorry, 86. I know you love New Horizon, but you also love a different Ranger more. And for this Ranger, it's Crossbones. There's no comparative. Because Azalea needs the opt. That's all she needs. She needs the opt.
It's big.
I understand that, but it's really hard to get Arcane Rising now, and it's none of the stores around here have it, and I think it's going out.
But it's so cheap.
It's $50 now.
Because no one likes Ranger.
It's $50 now.
Here's the problem. Even with a legendary head equipment that gives Azalea opt, I have a friend who was the first Azalea player I've ever seen, and he loves her to this day. And I commend him for it. He will not give up on her. It's not the person you're thinking, Ben. It's someone else.
Oh. Okay.
I have played him numerous times where he, cross-wrapped. I'm going to flip a card over. I get to opt one. Oh no, it's not an arrow. Guess what he does? He has to put it on the bottom. Now he has to blind Azalea. And it doesn't work. Even with a legendary equipment built specifically for her, it can fail.
It's not failing to make a seismic surge. Tectonic never fails to bury.
No, Tectonic, you can make a surge.
Massive Momentum never fails the name.
No, because it always threatens the draw card. Scabskins can fail.
So can fail pretty spectacularly.
The main thing I'm going to say with New Horizons, I just think that extra card space is key. I'm not saying that you're going to have to attack with Azalea every turn.
With a different Ranger. Am I wrong? Look at that smile. Okay. I'm not wrong.
Chess pieces.
This is all going in.
So headpieces, if you want to go to commoner, we can debate this later too. I'm curious what everybody says in the comments.
Prismatic lens for the eye.
Rag 'em up.
Is good. Hope Merchant. Or if you're doing Arcane Null Rune. Or if you're worried about damage, Ironhide.
Honing Hood?
Oh yeah, I forgot Honing It is common. That's in Azalea it's tricky just because
Well, with Azalea it is probably good because let's say you have an action in there and you want it out, you could do that.
I guess that's
I don't know why. Or you blind Azalea. It's an action card, but you have an arrow in your hand. You can Honing Hood that action card to your hand and put the arrow there. Boom! I made it useful.
It's a little undo. Okay.
It's a little undo button for Azalea.
Which, honestly, in Blitz, might be all you need.
Which might be all you need.
True.
See, all those things that are very common in other head equipments, but we're going to add in Honing Hood, which is destroy it, and then return your arsenal to your hand, and then put a card from your hand in your arsenal.
Is it face up?
It is face down in your arsenal. But you can still use it. You can
You
still
still-
fire from your bow.
Yeah.
And
I
from
was
your
just-
arsenal. Fire.
Gone. There are certain things like back alley break line and other cards that
Back alley break line, headshot loves to be put in face up.
And that's
Um,
usually +2 if it's put into arsenal face up, right?
What's the one that
Yeah,
if
I
it's
think so.
put Ridge Rider shot, if it's put in face up, you get to opt one. That's so one Azalea.
Get it?
You probably put it there and then Azalea it away. And now you have a nimble Azalea.
So let's talk about chest equipment. I think that I'm gonna move it on.
Tunic.
Yeah, you run so many reds that it's helpful when you get that other resource to have that available.
It's a free load on Death Dealer or Dreadbore, depending on which one you're running. Or if you had to pitch something to pay for your bow, you could use it to fire. So you've got a card in your arsenal, you pitch to load the bow, and you reveal, I believe, a headshot costs 1. Correct me if I'm wrong. But if you have Tunic, but you've no resources floating, you can at least fire off that headshot, at the very least. Last ditch effort. It also blocks for 1. Yay.
Yay, Ranger block.
They don't-
Common.
Do
Deep
not
blue.
run hard and cross track.
Don't run.
Do run deep blue.
Blue!
I will unequivocally say deep blue is
Blue.
better in Azalea.
I will put deep blue into Azalea because you need to be able to load the bow. You need to be able to fire it. So really, you need 2 resources.
Yeah,
But-
the cross trap does not help you in Azalea.
No.
Hey. Overflex.
Overflex.
Overflex costs 1.
Yeah. You're still gonna.
You're
So-
not running Overflex in Azalea. It costs too much.
So you have to play it though, and then you get to load.
So, yeah, it's another way to load the bow.
But that
I'm
I'm
try-
sorry, I'm failing to see how that falls into equipment.
I'm trying to think of equipment before Deep Blue.
So you had your iron
And-
rot, your iron hide, you had your heart and cross trap, you had your vest of the first fist.
Best of
Yeah.
the first fist.
Actually, would not be the worst with Azalea.
It came out in Arcane Rising.
It was part of the Stubbies Arcane.
That is probably, if you're thinking of the same set, which I always try to tie them into close cards of the same set, Vest of the First Fist would actually be very good for Azalea.
You have to hit with something though, so it would help with the second attack if it's your first attack.
Right. So if you have dominated your first attack with Azalea,
The
you have to go again. And this arrow, bolt shot, one of the many things we've already talked about. Boom, you've got 2 free resources.
Yes.
That is now typically enough for whatever you've got left in your hand.
Yeah.
Because again, everything's 0 or 1.
And that's 2 resources. That's not something as cheaper. That is just 2 resources that you can use for anything.
Yeah. No, rest of the front makes sense.
Yeah, resources are going to be key for the chest. And then you can throw in your null rune robes if you need those.
Hold
but
on. I just realized we talked about head equipment and didn't say the special good boy. We didn't say skullcap.
Ranger doesn't run Skullcap.
Yeah, that's
God.
one of the few classes that skullcap isn't going to be.
Yeah, when
critical hit.
you have specifically things you need, I sat here and I went, I didn't hear skullcap
For a reason.
for a reason. You don't need it.
I mean, you need it, but the other things you need
It
more.
blocks better.
You need
Yeah.
the other things more.
So,
It blocks a lot better.
going into this, let's do the arms because I can only think of one, and it's a common that's worth it to
Yeah.
have with Ranger.
Vibrators.
Yeah, bullseye
Bullseye.
bracers.
100%.
Has Arcane Barrier 1, which is also very useful. You don't have to sideboard it. And it's destroy it, put an arrow in your arsenal, give it +1. Boom.
Yep.
Yeah. It does
It's
everything you want it to do.
It's essentially a one-time free Dreadbore, but without the defense reaction bit.
I would be sure when you destroy it, because that's going to be your resource gone, so you're not going to get that back. Be sure that don't waste it.
Seen
Oh yeah.
some azaleas do. I think it's Bracers of Belief, which is your attack gets +3 minus the top card revealed from your deck's pitch value. Or is it?
I mean,
It's 3 minus pitch.
yeah,
it's 3
which
minus.
Can be nothing.
Which with Azalea, since you're running so many reds, typically your arrow could instead get +2 instead of +1, which could make a difference.
But it doesn't load your bow though.
Yeah.
But it doesn't load your bow. It does not. No.
You need the bullseye bracers for the resource, I think, more, because you're running so many reds that you need to come in for that clutch, like endless arrow. I'm gonna send it at you 4 or 5 times. Well, if I could send it one more time, okay, I'm gonna destroy it to send it again.
I was just felt I should mention it as I have seen people play it.
Sure.
Yep. Those people are wrong, but not like I am about New Horizon. I'm right.
It is always wrong.
Oh my
about
god.
If you want about even more wrong, you could make an argument for stubby hammerers at that point.
hammer.
No, you can't make an argument for this.
No, I'm not even entertaining.
You're gonna
this.
play so many reds that the three or more isn't gonna come in.
Stubbies. I'm an Azalea. It's a red and ledger. Crap. Okay.
Not
All right.
even.
Feet. I'll just move on. So feet.
Snapdragons.
Snapdragons or perch
Generally,
grapplers.
snapdragons. If you want the extra block, then perch grapplers. But if you want to be on the aggressive side, snapdragons.
Cost 2.
Hmm?
I'm pretty sure perch grapplers cost 2.
It
Oh,
does
it does.
cost.
You literally just use it for the block.
Yeah.
It
Or
blocks.
that turn
That's a
where
lot.
you're coming in for a lot that, you know what? Everything's gonna have go again when I fire it.
You have like 3 endless arrows in your hand and somehow can load them all. Sure, perch grapplers would be great.
Purely for block.
Yeah. It is. I'll admit it.
I've never seen anyone ever activate perch grapplers. I have seen them block with them, and that's about it.
That's their only good block card is the
It's
problem.
also blade break.
It is.
Yeah.
Do block out.
Blade break.
Congratulations. You have a cheap skull cap for your feet. Except it has blade break.
It
It's
is
the 4-man skull cap. It blocks 2 once.
But if you want to be on the aggressive side, snapdragons without question.
That's still not even good. Because I can block with Braveforge Bracers for 2, and then still block for 1, and still use it.
Too bad Ranger can't run Braveforge.
Please make. I just feel so sorry for Ranger. Because
Yeah,
literally, they
They
are
can't block.
the middle, like they're the redheaded stepchild of Flesh and Blood. It's like, here's an equipment for Guardian. Here's an equipment for Runeblade. Here's something that everyone can use. Rangers still don't want to use it because what they have that's bad is somehow better?
So
Yep.
I think there's some things that you could mention in Rangers, and we talked a lot about the on-hit effects of cards. So we talked about Remorseless, and Seek and Destroy is an excellent card to load into that. We also talked about Bolt and Shot a little bit, and if it has the modifier, if its attack is greater than its base, it has Go Again, and if it hits, it has Reload. So one good thing to have in here, I don't know if we talked about it or not. We may have. I'm sorry if this is redundant. Rain Razors, which is a brand new card, gives it +2. Really good because it's all your arrows that turn. So that is a really good option. We have.
I said even if you break the chain, it still counts because it's for the turn. It's not like this combat chain or this chain link. It's for the whole turn.
Very nice.
We have. I'm going to mix them up now. I think it's Fatigue Shot I'm going to talk about. Oh my gosh. There's Fatigue and Timidity. And I forget which one's which all the time.
Timidity is the one that takes away Dominate, right?
Yes. Timidity removes dominate.
Timidity is very good in the Starvo matchup,
Fatigue,
or any kind of Bravo matchup.
I always forget
Fatigue is half rounded down.
Yep.
Yep. Their next attack is divided by half rounded down.
When fatigue shot hits a hero, the base attack of the first attack action card they play during their next turn is halved rounded up.
Oh, it's rounded up.
So
Corinthia.
Yeah.
That's against heroes that stack their self with attack action or non-attack action.
Because it's like, oh, I halved your sword to 3. Ah, you buffed it by 8.
Well, it doesn't even apply to the swords. It's attack actions.
Is it attack actions?
yeah, it's attack action cards.
So yeah, it doesn't affect Dory at
It
all.
costs 1. That's too expensive.
So the counter to that would be if someone like Katsu, he swung, one way you think he might get rid of it. Oh, I'm just going to Kadachi. Well, guess what? Your Kadachis don't mean anything to me because your first card is still going to be halved.
My blue head jab for 1 still comes in. Wasted the fatigue.
That's true.
I'm sorry, you have to say that again. I couldn't hear him.
The blue head jab for 1 in my hand with go again will still come in for 1, and you've wasted your fatigue shot.
That's true. If that's what you have in your hand, that could
I
have.
have a lot of
It happens.
go again. Yeah, I wouldn't sideboard it in against a Katsu. I would sideboard it in against a Prism, against a Starvo,
Rhinar.
against a Rhinar.
Guardians.
Yeah, Guardians, Brutes, and Prism.
Illusionist.
There's just one. We can
Just
just say her
her.
name. We can just say the one's name.
Prism.
We might
the
have
moment-
another illusionist before too long.
At
Who
the
knows?
moment, yeah. In 2022, the year of whatever you want to call it,
I'm still just thinking about
how sad it is for Rangers.
how sad it is to beat Azalea.
So there are some good things that Rangers also have to come in. So we talked about those cards. One card we didn't mention, which is really key, but you got to plan out how you're going to play it, is not an attack, but does anyone know what I'm hitting at here?
I have no idea.
Oh my gosh.
Is it Arena's Prayer?
Name?
Hmm?
Sigil of Solace red? Because
Sigil of Solace. You're gonna need that 3 health.
3 of a kind is something that is.
Oh, God.
Yeah, everyone's kicking themselves now. Why didn't I think of
Not
three
an
of a kind?
Azalea. Not an Azalea.
It's not.
Wait, did I say what?
Dear of a Kind, you don't want to play that in Azalea.
I mean,
If
3
you
of a
have the
kind
way to load the bow.
at all.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a lot of ways to load that and have go again in the same turn.
So there are some cards that help you out a lot with, like Tri-Shot came out in the newest
Try
set.
shot is helpful.
Yep. And you also want to look at, if you do 3 of a kind, you're hoping to run maybe some Bolton shots in there, get some reloads off. You really want those 3 cards for resources. I know everyone hates this. I'm just trying to make this work. I'm sorry.
It's not. It doesn't work. That's it.
I do just want to think about the line of play, right? So you've got a Tri-Shot
Yeah.
in hand, right? Slap that bad boy down.
Mhm.
Great. Tri-Shot is the thing. Do you knock the death whistle and then put 3 of a kind on top to play it from Arsenal to draw the cards?
But first of all, Knock can't find 3 of a
Then
kind.
you can put your
Yeah, you're
first,
trying too hard here. I would just
Yeah,
like walk me through it. Is all.
you're
Here's
just
how-
gonna play 3 of a kind and try shot.
Here's how I walk you through it. Don't.
I agree with that.
Well,
It's a trap.
what if you have best of the first base, and then you play 3 of a kind, you slap an arrow in, and you shoot it. You're like, aha, I hit. I get 2 more resources. Now I can actually afford to pay
Hey!
these arrows.
Load
Okay.
your bow. You can't. You did already.
Shot. You do it 2 more times.
Summary
So-
is that Rangers need the stars to align to get any kind of momentum.
Rangers aren't impossible. There have been some Rangers that have placed very well. Azalea is not impossible, but however,
3 of a kinds. And not draw a single arrow. It's a trap.
you're gonna have an uphill battle.
Don't pull it. Don't pull it. It looks great. You're like, oh my god, I draw 3 cards. Great. If you're in Blitz, you're against Valda, you're screwed.
All right. So one thing I also didn't mention, I think we talked about it a little bit, but Rangers are exclusive that they have the trap feature. So sometimes
I
it's
breathe.
I'm a warrior. I have shunt.
so sometimes you just pay a resource to get by it, but you can do damage or you can lessen or
Traps are terrible.
I'm trying. I'm really trying here.
Traps are so bad. Like, just don't.
There is one trap worth playing, and it's it. And you'd probably run one of them.
Which is it?
The one that does 2 damage.
That's
Wow.
Because it's forcing a card out of your opponent's hand, or it might be that final, like, I gotcha! If somehow you keep the match close.
But that's the problem, is that it can be countered. If you're playing Azalea, and your opponent is at 2 health, and you play that trap, which I think is Pitfall.
Yeah.
You play Pitfall Trap, and you're like, I'm gonna do 2 damage to you. Unless you pay 1. They're gonna pay 1! And then they probably are gonna hit you again! Because you tried to spin their face!
so
It's not like a shunt. It's not like a reckless swing.
So what's interesting now, and I'll refer to it as the stack since we had it renamed in Rules 2.0, right? Or 2 point whatever. It's now the stack instead of the chain. So your defense reaction, if that is what you play. So I did this once in Limited with Azalea. I had someone come in and they were going to finish me off, and I had a defense reaction with the pitfall trap, and they didn't have any resources. That defense reaction will actually trigger first, so that damage will happen before all the damage coming at you. So in that one very 1,000th of a case that is what happens, congratulations, your attack goes off first.
Yeah, your defense reaction damage solves because it is last in, first out.
Yeah. But guess what?
Yeah.
So does Stillblade Shunt. So does Reckless Swing.
So does
And those...
Sigil of Vengeance, or whatever the...
Sigil of Suffering.
Sigil of
Ring.
Suffering.
So does Sigil of Suffering. But... I mean, at least with Sigil of Suffering has a clause that you can stop the arcane damage. Stillblade Shunt and Reckless Swing cannot be stopped unless you have something on the field that can stop instant damage. Because you cannot defend... Stop. You cannot defend the 1 or 2 coming in with those attacks with, like, defense cards.
Guess what? Ranger doesn't care about your Steelblade Shunt because you can't deal 1 damage to Ranger anyway.
Shunt is more or less
But
worthless.
can a Guardian pay 1 resource and stop my 1 damage from killing them? No! Can they do that with Ranger? Yes! And then will they stomp Ranger into the mud? Yes.
Let's be honest here. Just gonna stomp. They're gonna stomp Warrior too, but yeah, they're gonna stomp Ranger harder. unless you're playing the other Ranger. We'll talk about her in a little bit, and maybe
The other Ranger has a place.
Maybe Starvo will be living legend before we get to that topic. Who knows?
Azalea to be good. I'm not here to bash her. I'm just here to actually speak that she is not good right now. And that needs to change. Because people are moving so much further. Dash, who came out in the same set, is doing great now. And Azalea is just can't get there. And I want her to. And it's frustrating that they really just cannot balance her out somehow. I don't know. It's just I'm talking to a wall. The wall's myself. There's nothing I can do.
Trapped in a box.
I am the unstoppable force and the unmovable object all in myself. Thank you. I'm done.
All right. So, have fun at the calling this weekend.
I won't be there.
Because Caleb won't have fun there. So have fun in her place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comment below so I can go look at how you did in the calling. I will live vicariously through you. I have work stuff, but I also get to see my family for the first time since Thanksgiving, and I'm very excited.
That's all good stuff. All good things.
All good
Inspiration.
things. I swear
Anyway.
to God, 86, don't do this to me.
Let's do an outro. So this has been Kayla and the
Won't.
86. I have hope in Azalea players, and I know that Azalea can Azalea has definitely had some pride and proven results lately. I recognize that she is an uphill battle. Unfortunately, these two just say she has no chance. However, I guess she is forgotten.
We all hold out hope.
Any final thoughts that are PG?
Tune into the 87, the second channel, for the disembodied face reveal. First video on the second channel.
Will you do a face reveal?
If you do a second channel with all the bloopers and outtakes.
And a smash.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
That is my-
And
I see.
We will put this up.
final words on Azalea.
She could be good.
She is fun and limited. Do not
She's
compare
fun.
her to competitive CC. Play her in Blitz if you want to get a feel for her, and enjoy the turns that are just like, I did the thing.
Yeah. Also, if you're playing Azalea and you're just testing her out, blind Azalea every turn, you will have the most fun of your life.
She's like
There's
Russian
nothing-
roulette with
Yeah, there is nothing more fun than blind Azaleaing and nailing it. It's awesome. It's the best feeling in the world. Yeah, you're probably gonna get the misses, but it's so much fun. Blind Azalea. Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
One more shout out. I think with Ranger cards, Eye of Ophidia is actually something that I've started running with Rangers.
Huh.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably pretty solid. Yeah.
Mostly because I have one now. Anyway. Have fun. See you
Have fun at the
guys.
club. Comment below.
Calling. Yay.
Hope you all. I wish you all the best of luck.
I'm gonna with the
Notification.
calling.
Subscribe. Hit the bell.
Ding.
Ding.
Join-
All right.
join-
See you guys later.
Fan.